Welcome to the Private Practice with Soul podcast. My name is Dr. Brooklyn Storme, and I help private practice owners align their business back with their soul's calling, with their big vision and with their soul's purpose. Unlike other private practice coaches, I've traveled the world in search of spiritual resources, spiritual tools, education and information so that you can have the transformation that your soul desires and needs so that you can up-level your business. How much fun is this? I love it so much. Guys, if you're not already a member of the Private Practice Monthly Mentorship Group, please check out the show notes. I would love for you to be there. In the meantime, thank you so much for pushing play today. Let's begin. Good morning, everybody. I know it's not Saturday, it's Monday, isn't it? And I'm very sorry that you didn't get the podcast episode on Saturday. I've had a few queries from people asking where was it and am I okay? Do you know what? The honest truth is I was just feeling like I needed a weekend to rest, recharge, repair. Honestly, you can go to my Facebook feed, you can go to my Instagram feed. I was using all my crystals. Yesterday I felt really drawn to my moldavite and my rose quartz and my chrysocolla. Oh my gosh, chrysocolla, it's so beautiful, isn't it? Google it if you haven't seen it already, but I love it because it reminds me of the beach. It reminds me of like waves crashing below the cliffs. It's a stone that has deep green, deep blue, little bits of brown like rocks that might be below the surface, and little bits of white like caps on the ocean waves. And I just look at it and I feel calm, but I know that calm is just a kind of like what we see on the surface, isn't it? When what's going on underneath all those caps on the waves is actually something very powerful. So I felt called to use my crystals yesterday. I got back into my regular routine of meditating. I woke up 10 minutes earlier today and did my meditation again. I'm just feeling so much better. So here's a lesson. If you're feeling like you're getting a little bit tired, then absolutely it's fine to take a break and allow yourself to rest and repair. I think you'll find most of the time, most people are very understanding. So anyway, today I want to answer a listener question. So this was a request that came through on email asking what's something that this lady might be able to do today that might be able to make a difference in her private practice. And I think this is a great question, but it's also very broad, isn't it? So what I've done is I've just thought about some clients that I've worked with in the past and some stuff that's been coming up lately in some of the groups that I'm in. And I thought I'd speak to that. So there was a lady, I'm going to say her name was Mel, but it wasn't. Mel was working as a psychologist and she was working for a non-profit organisation, okay? And she'd been there for maybe 5 or so years. And, you know, she started that job and in the beginning she was loving it. But what had happened was over time, she'd become very aware that there was pressure from the organisation for her to do a lot of the admin type things, you know, like track her numbers. There was pressure on her to see a high volume of patients or clients. She had to move them through the system very, very quickly. So they had to come in, be triaged, have an assessment, all that sort of stuff. So have some quick, direct therapeutic intervention and then be, you know, referred out for more sort of ongoing stuff. And so I guess what had happened was over time, I would become aware that the admin was increasing and the direct client work was decreasing. She'd also become aware that as this was going on, her joy and her happiness were decreasing because the role was no longer in alignment with her values. It was no longer in alignment with why she even got into psychology in the first place, which was to help people. The good thing about this situation was that it had given her a lot of time to reflect, and she became really aware that what was important to her was the long-term work with clients. She wanted to see somebody at the beginning of their journey and then through to the end of the journey. And that was super important to her. She had tried to see whether or not there was a way to make this work in her current workplace, and there just wasn't because of funding restrictions and this, that, and the other. So then she was talking to some girlfriends about it, and they'd suggested to her that maybe she'll look at starting her own private practice, right? Which, okay, great idea. But here's the thing, she didn't know anything about how to start one. And so she went into Facebook groups and she started asking people, oh, I'm thinking of starting a private practice. So I'm just pouring myself a cup of herbal tea here while I'm talking to you, because it's only 2 degrees in Western Port right now. It's freezing. I can't even see my front fence for the fog. It's crazy. Gabe, my dog, he's on the bed and I've turned the electric blanket on for him so he can be nice and warm. So he's rugged up and toasty warm over there. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so where was I? So she goes into these Facebook groups. She's like, hey guys, I'm thinking of starting a private practice. What do I do? And guess what? She gets bombarded with everybody giving their opinion on what she should and shouldn't be doing for private practice and on what they think the most important things are. And you know what? She's reading all of the comments, and while she's very grateful and thankful that people are writing back, it's making her more aware that there's a lot she doesn't know. And she's confused because people are telling her different things. Okay. So now she's like, all right, what do I do now? And here's the other thing, I think once you become aware that you're not happy in your current role, it makes that awareness increase, don't you think? Like, I know when I was working for an employer years ago, I got to the point where I wasn't loving it anymore. And then once I realized I wasn't loving it anymore, every subsequent day became more of an effort. And it had nothing to do with clients. I love doing the client work, but I just mean all that ancillary stuff that goes around it, right? So anyway, she wanted to know, like, what do I do? What's the next step? And so I spoke with her and we had a conversation. It was really nice, actually. And this is always such a joy for me because I love helping women unpack, their why. I want to understand what's important to her with her business, and I want to understand what her vision is. And a lot of the time people don't have one, They think that if you have a vision, it's got to be like what you learned about in high school when you were studying business management in year 10, that you've got to have this very formal vision and mission. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, I love to help women tap into, their big why. Like, why on earth did you spend 14 years of your life studying to be a psychologist, in my case, and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and sacrifice all that time where you could have been socializing, going out with family and friends, having a life, but you weren't because you had your head in a book because it was so important to you to get this qualification so that you could do what? And I don't think it's enough when women say, oh, I just wanted to help people. Yeah, everybody says that. But take it further. Like, how did you want to help them? Why did you want to help them? Did you have some experience in your life that made you want to give back, And so, yeah, in one of the groups, I asked people, what's your story about why you started in private practice? And it was so beautiful to see why everybody got into it. Some people that had a really positive experience with a social worker or a counsellor or a therapist or a psychologist while they were growing up, and that had really made such a deep and profound impression on them that became their why. They wanted to do that too. They were inspired by their own journey working with that person. Other people said, well, I saw a movie and I realized, the impact that one person can have, and I really wanted to have an impact. And, things like that. Everybody has a different story, but it was just so beautiful to see. But that's what I mean in terms of trying to anchor into your vision. Like, really go back and think, why did I choose this degree? Why was it so important to me? If I said to you today, hey, come and get coaching and pay $40,000 for it and you can have a beautiful practice, you'd probably freak out. Yet you went and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on your university education, and you're really going to sit there and tell me you don't know why, or you did it to help? There are cheaper ways of helping people. You must have had some reason why this was important to you. And it was so important to you that you sat up at night and you did the assessments, you did the tutorials, you gave the presentations, you drove into the city, you went outside your comfort zone, you crammed for exams, how many hours have you spent in university libraries photocopying stuff or on the microfiche? And maybe I'm showing my age now. But you know what I mean? How many hours did you sit in lectures? How many hours did you spend outside of lectures sitting down with girlfriends, reviewing your lecture notes? All of that sort of stuff was propelled because you were motivated. But what were you motivated to do? Why? How did you want to help? And I think that is the first step in understanding what private practice can mean for you. Okay? And that's something that we tend to veer away from when we're working for other people. When we work for other people, it's kind of like getting married, I think. When you're in a long-term relationship or when you're married with someone, you know how it feels like you lose a little bit of yourself, but you gain a little bit of that other person. You start dressing the same, you start using the same phrases, you start watching the same things on TV, stuff like that. And then when the relationship falls apart, you go through this whole process of what's my identity, who am I? Oh, I'm going to go back and do those things that I used to do before I met him or her, right? And so you have to go through that process of rebuilding. I think it's kind of the same. When you're working for an employer, you leave some of your stuff at the door and you have to take on some of their stuff, don't you? And then when you leave, it's a matter of, oh yeah, what's my identity again? Why did I do this again? And that's got to be the first step. And the number one thing that you can do to make a difference today in your private practice is to allow yourself the space and the time to really reflect on your why, okay? And that's what your purpose is in a way, yep? It's not this big intangible thing that you can't see, that's bigger than you, that you'll never be able to figure it out. No. Make it easy for yourself and just ask yourself, yeah, why do I want to do this? And why is this so important to me? And what effect do I want to have on the world or on a certain group of people? Or how do I, not everybody wants to serve, by the way. Some people just don't like that idea of servitude. So if you're in that category, that's great, don't worry. But think about how you want to help, how you want to make an impact, just like you have an income goal for your private practice, you absolutely need to have an impact goal. So think about what kind of impact do you want to make? What would that look like? Who are you working with? How are you working with them? What's the legacy? How do you help this person change and what changes in their life around them? This is a ripple effect that you're throwing a pebble in the pond and you're creating this ripple effect, aren't you? It's the same with therapy. When we help one person, they then change who they're being, and what they're doing, how they're behaving, what they're thinking, feeling and saying to the people in their inner circle and then to their friends and acquaintances and then to who they work with. And do you see what I mean? The ripple effect. So that's the number one thing that you can do. And I think it's a step that's often skipped because we're just in a rush to get out of where we are and into something new. And we have these ideas. We're very focused on, you've got to make some money. I've got to do it for myself. It's going to be my way or nobody else's way. I'm choosing the furniture for my room. I'm finding a logo. I'm choosing a business name. It's all very, ego focused, keeping you nice and safe financially, nice and safe in a business sense, all that sort of stuff. But here's the thing, when you're not anchoring the practice from the beginning into your why, you're not going to have a soul-aligned practice, are you? It's just going to be another business that you don't feel connected to, and you're going to have difficulty in that business because it's out of alignment with your values. It's out of alignment with your vision. So the number one thing that you can do right now, right today, that can make a difference in your practice is giving yourself the space to sit down and reflect on why you want to do this, okay? And I would also ask yourself, what stories are you telling yourself about running a private practice? Write that stuff out. What story am I telling myself about running a private practice? Or what story am I telling myself about starting a private practice? Write that out as a journal prompt and write for 4 or 5 minutes and see what comes up for you. And then ask yourself, all right, that was a surprise. That's interesting what's come up there. Where on earth did this story come from? Maybe it's your story based on your experience, but I bet it's not. I bet this is stories that you've internalized because you read it in a Facebook group, you read it in someone's email, you have girlfriends or colleagues that are running their private practice and they've shared their story with you and you've taken on their story as yours. I bet it's probably not even your story. And then ask yourself, how's this story helping you? Is it helping you? And journal to that. And then write out, what would I rather tell myself? What would I rather the story be about me and private practice? All right. So there's 4 or 5 journal prompts that you can use today that are super powerful. And I hope that they really do help you. The other thing that you can do to make a difference in your private practice today is get help. And I know there are so many of you who are new to this podcast, and I want to welcome you with open arms and, bless you. I'm so pleased that you're here. Honestly, I am. But one of the things about getting help from a new person is that you don't know them, right? So it feels scary and you kind of feel a bit hesitant and a bit resistant, don't you? I know. I've been in that position too. But something that really helped me was getting to know people first. And so what I can do to help you get to know me is you can absolutely come and join my group. It's only going to cost you $1 for the first 30 days. And I want to give you that so that you can see the training I provide in the group. You can participate in the coaching calls, get some support for your practice. They happen every Monday at 11 a.m. You're welcome to binge watch all of the pre-recorded ones, the recorded ones that I did before that are in there. Plus, I've got units in there where there are tools and resources to help you at any stage of your private practice. Plus, you get to join a community of other women who are at different stages of either starting or developing their private practice as well. And unlike other groups and coaches and stuff like that, my coaching is done through a spiritual lens. I want to help you understand how to work with your intuition in your private practice. I want to help you understand how to work with tools that can help you unlock and uncover some of the inner resources that you have so that you can affect change in your private practice that will bring it into alignment with your core essence. All right. But if you've been listening for a while and if you've been following me on social media for a while, then you well and truly know who I am and how I work. And I do have a couple of spots open for one-to-one coaching, and it's more affordable than you might think before you panic about the money. The goal has always been for me to help you get your practice where you want it to be. And it's not going to cost you a fortune to do that, but I want you to get the experience and get the results, okay? And I will put the information for both of those things and my email address in the show notes for you. So please get in touch with me, reach out. I'm so excited to hear what you thought about this podcast episode and if it made sense for you and if it landed for you and if you loved it. Please review it so that I can get it in front of more people because that's part of my impact goal. All right, lovelies, have a beautiful day. Stay lovely and warm and stay nice and safe too. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Private Practice with Soul podcast today. If you're looking for clarity, if you need help with branding, your processes, and bringing everything into alignment with your soul's purpose for your private practice, head to the show notes and click the link for more information about the Private Practice Monthly Mentorship Group. You are going to love it. I can't wait to see you in there. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.